So, you know that feeling. You're trying to say something in English, and the thought is right there. It's crystal clear. But, well, it's in your first language.
Mm-hmm.
Then the mental gymnastics begin, right? The word-by-word translation, and by the time you've sort of constructed the sentence, the moment's just gone.
Yeah, the conversation's moved on without you. It's infuriating, I know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a really common bottleneck for English learners. This constant need to translate it really acts as a significant drag on fluency. It can be quite discouraging, actually.
Well, that frustration, that's exactly what we're digging into today. This deep dive is really for you if you're ready to, bypass that internal translator and actually start thinking directly in English. We've been looking into the strategies that language acquisition experts recommend, and we're here to pull out the core principles, the actionable steps for retraining your brain.
Yeah, our goal in this deep dive is basically to give you the essential understanding and, crucially, the practical steps so you can begin thinking in English more instinctively. And this shift, it can really lead to more fluid speaking, much better listening comprehension, and just a greater sense of confidence, in your overall communication.
Okay. So let's unpack that. Why is this shift thinking in English? Why is it such a game changer for fluency?
Well, fundamentally, it's about eliminating that processing delay. That's the core of it. When you're constantly translating, your brain is essentially doing a two-step operation, right? Formulating the idea in your native language, then converting it.
Right.
And that sequential processing, it just inherently takes more time, more cognitive load, too, than directly getting to the English formulation.
Yeah, it's like trying to have a spontaneous chat, but with this mental interpreter who's always, a fraction of a second behind.
Exactly.
And we all know sometimes that direct literal translation just doesn't quite work, does it? It doesn't capture the English nuance.
Precisely. That's a huge point. Think about a simple example like expressing coldness. In some languages, the literal way might lead you to say something like, I have cold.
Right.
But the natural English is, I am cold. Thinking within the English system itself helps you avoid those direct translation mistakes. You generate expressions that sound, well, more natural to a native speaker.
Okay, so it's faster, it's more natural.
Yeah.
Beyond just speaking more quickly, what are the other advantages here?
A really big one is the boost in confidence.
Ah, okay.
When your thoughts naturally form in English, the words just seem to come more easily. There's less hesitation, and that builds a greater sense of, okay, I can do this, assurance in your ability to communicate.
Yeah, you're not constantly second-guessing every single word choice.
Exactly. You're not filtering quite as much.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine it also sharpens your listening skills,
Yeah.
understanding spoken English.
Oh, absolutely. Massively. When you're thinking in English, your brain becomes much more attuned to the patterns, the rhythms of the language. You start processing spoken English faster, more efficiently, recognizing words, phrases, even in, rapid speech or with different accents.
Yeah.
It's like your brain is operating natively within that English linguistic environment, even if it's still learning.
Oh, that's huge. Especially for things like trying to follow movies or
Yeah.
podcasts like this one or just, real-life conversations.
Indeed. And here's something else interesting. Thinking in English can actually help your pronunciation.
Really? How so?
Well, as you internally form thoughts in English, you're implicitly kind of engaging with the sound system of the language. It's subtle, but it can influence your articulation over time, making your spoken English sound a bit more natural. You start to internalize the sounds.
Wow. Okay. So let's recap quickly. Thinking directly in English speeds up speech, builds confidence, sharpens listening, and might even subtly improve pronunciation.
That's the package, yes.
Okay, I'm sold. But let's be real. What are the common hurdles? What stops learners from actually making this switch? Because it's not always easy.
No, it's definitely not automatic. Several factors often get in the way. The most obvious one, as we've sort of touched on, is that constant reliance on translation.
Right, the default habit.
Exactly. If your go-to mechanism is always translate first, whether speaking or listening, your brain just doesn't get the chance to build those direct pathways for English thought. It's like those training wheels on a bike.
Yeah.
They give you support initially, but eventually they stop you from learning to balance on your own.
Perfect analogy. You have to take them off eventually to really ride. Okay, what's another common obstacle?
Overthinking grammar. Especially, during the actual process of trying to speak or even just form a thought. Many learners get so fixated on building these perfectly grammatical sentences in their heads that it just completely disrupts the natural flow. They're trying to consciously apply every single rule they ever learned all at once in real time.
Ah, the classic analysis paralysis. I see that a lot.
Precisely. And look, a good foundation in grammar is important, obviously, but constantly pausing to check every little grammatical point in your internal monologue, that's going to slow you right down. Even native speakers, we operate mostly on, let's call it procedural knowledge, that automatic, unconscious grasp of grammar, and we definitely make mistakes sometimes.
Good point. So aiming for perfect grammar inside your head isn't the main goal here. What else holds people back?
Just the general fear of making mistakes.
Right. The performance anxiety.
Yeah. Some learners worry so much about saying something wrong, about sounding silly, that they hesitate to even try thinking or speaking in English. And that anxiety, it can really block the natural experimentation that's so, so crucial for language development.
It's like being so scared of falling off the bike you never even get on it in the first place.
Exactly that. Errors are not just inevitable. They're actually a valuable part of learning. You learn from them. The more you practice thinking in English, mistakes and all, the more you'll refine things. Don't let that fear of imperfection stop you.
Solid advice. Any other major roadblocks we should mention?
Yes, definitely. A lack of sufficient English immersion in just daily life.
Okay.
If English is only something you encounter during, say, a 1-hour lesson, your brain will naturally just default back to your native language for all the everyday thinking, planning, reacting.
Right. It's like trying to learn to swim without ever actually getting in the water much.
Exactly. Consistent exposure to English, even in small ways throughout the day, is really important for encouraging your brain to switch over, to adopt English as a more natural way to think. This could be listening to English music or podcasts passively, watching videos, reading articles, just surrounding yourself with it.
Okay, so we get why it's vital, and we know what often gets in the way. Now, the really practical stuff, how do we actually train our brains to do this? Where do we start?
Okay, step 1, really fundamental. Start consciously naming objects around you in English. Just make a deliberate effort. Look around your room, your office, wherever you are, and mentally label things. Table, chair, lamp, window, screen, whatever you see.
Okay, that sounds manageable, like taking a little mental English inventory of your surroundings.
Exactly. It starts building those direct links. Object, English word, no translation needed. And then you can easily extend this. Start mentally describing simple actions related to those objects.
Ah, okay.
So instead of just thinking cup, you might think, I am drinking water from my cup, or this is my blue pen. It starts forming basic English sentences connected to your immediate reality.
I like that. It's concrete, tangible. You can do it anywhere, pretty much silently. What's the next tactic?
Talking to yourself in English, your internal monologue.
Okay.
Now, this might feel a bit strange at first, maybe a little awkward for some people.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it is remarkably effective. You can do this while you're doing routine things, cooking, getting dressed, walking the dog, commuting. Just narrate what you're doing, simply, in English. I'm washing the dishes now. Okay, where are my keys? The traffic is bad today. Simple stuff.
The great thing about that, I guess, is there's zero pressure, right? No audience. It's purely for your own practice.
Precisely, no external judgment. So you can just focus on getting comfortable forming thoughts, any thoughts, in English in those everyday moments.
Okay, internal self-talk. Got it. What's step number 3?
Using an English-to-English dictionary, this is a really pivotal shift for many learners.
Instead of English to your native language.
Exactly. Many learners stick with bilingual dictionaries for way too long. Switching to a monolingual English dictionary forces you to think within English to understand a new word. It strengthens that direct link between English words and the concepts they represent, completely bypassing the detour through your native language.
Can you give an example of how that works in practice?
Sure. Let's say you see the word excited. You're not quite sure what it means. Instead of looking up the translation, you look it up in an English dictionary. It might say, feeling very happy and eager.
I see.
So now, your brain connects excited directly to other English concepts, happy, eager. You're staying within the English network. Plus, as a bonus, you often learn related vocabulary from the definition itself. It expands your English knowledge overall.
That makes sense. A much more direct route. Okay, what's the next step after that?
Start your internal thoughts with simple sentences first.
Not try to be Shakespeare in your head right away.
Exactly. Don't try to build these complex multi-clause sentences internally when you're just starting out. That can feel really overwhelming, lead to getting stuck. Begin with short, basic thoughts instead of, I wonder if I should perhaps purchase some groceries on my way home from work this evening. Just think, need food. Buy groceries later.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. I am hungry. It is sunny. Build that foundation first. More complex English thinking will grow from that naturally as you get more comfortable.
Okay, start simple, less daunting. Step number 5.
Actively develop an English inner voice. This goes a bit beyond just narrating actions. It's about trying to conduct your internal dialogues, your planning, your self-questioning in English.
So actually thinking through things in English.
Yes. For example, when you're planning your day, consciously try to do it in English in your head. Okay, what should I do first, right? Check emails, then meeting at 10.
So making your default internal chatter switch languages, essentially.
Exactly. It's a powerful way to integrate English thinking so it becomes more automatic, less of a conscious effort all the time. Ask yourself simple questions throughout the day in English. What time is it? Am I thirsty? Where did I leave my phone? That constant internal use really helps solidify it.
That sounds like a great way to make it almost subconscious over time. Okay, and the final step, number 6.
Surround yourself with English. Maximize your immersion.
We touched on this with the roadblocks, but really emphasizing it as a proactive strategy now.
Yes. It includes both active things, like studying or reading an article carefully, and passive immersion, just having English on in the background. Podcasts, music, videos, even just changing your phone's language setting.
Right.
The more English you hear and see, the more your brain naturally starts to tune into it and eventually think in it. Create an English bubble as much as you can.
Okay, those are 6 really solid, actionable strategies. Now, the key is consistency, right? How can we weave these into daily life to make English thinking a real habit?
Absolutely. Consistency is everything here. Let's talk about some simple daily exercises. First, try starting and ending your day in English, just for a minute or two.
How so?
When you wake up, before you even get out of bed maybe, mentally outline your basic plan for the day in English. Okay, it's Tuesday, have that report due, need to call Sarah, simple things. And then before you sleep, do a quick mental review of the day in English. Today was okay, the meeting went well, I felt tired this afternoon.
Like setting English bookends for the day. Kind of primes the brain.
Exactly. It helps switch your brain into English mode at those key transition points.
Okay, good one. What's another daily practice?
Implement a no translation rule for a set period each day. Maybe start with, say, 30 minutes.
A dedicated time block.
Yes. During this time, make a really conscious effort to think only in English. If you get stuck on a word you don't know, actively resist the urge to immediately translate it from your native language. Try to think how you could describe it in English, or look it up in your English-to-English dictionary. Keep yourself in that English zone.
That sounds challenging, like a real mental workout, but probably very effective over time.
It is. It forces your brain to find solutions within English. Okay, another daily exercise.
Yeah.
Talk to yourself out loud in English for a few minutes.
Take the internal self-talk, external.
Exactly. While the internal monologue is great, actually verbalizing thoughts can strengthen the connection between thinking and speaking. Just describe what you're doing, what you see, your plans. Okay, I'm making some tea now. Ooh, this smells good. Even just for 2 or 3 minutes while you're doing a chore.
Makes it a bit more active, engages the auditory feedback loop too.
Okay, another one. Consciously think in English during simple, routine activities. Things you do on autopilot often.
Like that.
Cooking, driving, or commuting, maybe while you're exercising. Instead of letting your mind drift off in your native language, actively try to think in English about what you're doing or seeing. Okay, turn left here. The sky is really blue today. This hill is steep.
Turning those mundane moments into little practice sessions.
Precisely. Every little bit helps. And finally, try keeping a simple English journal.
Writing it down.
Yeah, just a few sentences each day. Write down your thoughts, what happened, maybe your goals. The key here is expression, not perfection. Don't worry too much about perfect grammar initially. Just focus on getting your thoughts out in English words. It also gives you a great way to look back and see your progress later on.
Okay, so these are all small, manageable things that, done consistently, can really build up that English thinking muscle.
Absolutely. But, as we said, it's not always smooth sailing. Learners will hit challenges.
Right. Let's talk about overcoming those. One big one we mentioned is just the sheer dominance of the native language. It's the brain's default, right?
It really is. And the key here is patience, first and foremost. And starting small. Don't expect to suddenly flip a switch and think only in English overnight. It won't happen. Focus on just thinking a few individual words in English, then short phrases. Gradually build up the duration and complexity. And, like we said, keep that English-to-English dictionary handy to stay in the zone.
Okay. Patience in starting small. What about when you genuinely get stuck because you just don't know the English word for something you want to think about? That's super frustrating.
It is. It can completely derail your train of thought. But instead of just giving up and switching back to your native language, try to circumlocute. Try to describe the word using simpler English that you do know.
Can you give an example?
Sure, let's say you can't remember the word refrigerator.
Mm.
You could think, that cold box where I keep the food, the machine in the kitchen.
Oh, describe around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It keeps you thinking in English, problem solving in English.
Yeah.
And sometimes just describing it will actually help you recall the specific word eventually.
That's a clever workaround. Using the English, you have to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
What about the motivation issue, hitting that plateau where you feel like you're not making progress anymore?
Yeah, that feeling of being stuck is really common in language learning, and it can be very disheartening. It makes you want to quit sometimes.
Totally.
But it's so important to remember that progress isn't always, a smooth upward curve. There will be peaks and valleys and plateaus. The best way to fight that feeling is to find ways to actually see your progress, even if it feels slow.
How can you do that?
Well, that journal we mentioned. Go back and read entries from a few weeks or months ago. You'll likely be surprised. Or record yourself speaking periodically. Just talking about your day for a minute. Listen back to older recordings. You could even just practice speaking in front of a mirror sometimes. You'll start to notice changes in your fluency, your confidence, how easily words come.
So track it somehow. Make the progress visible.
Exactly. Track it. Acknowledge the small wins and just be patient and persistent. Keep putting in the time, even when it feels tough.
That's crucial advice. Patience and persistence seem to be recurring themes here.
They really are. Thinking in English is absolutely a skill, and like any skill, it develops with consistent practice over time. Don't get discouraged by setbacks. Just keep going.
This has been incredibly helpful, really insightful. It definitely sounds like, consciously training ourselves to think in English is achievable. It's not some magic trick. It takes work, but there are clear strategies.
It is absolutely achievable. Just remember those core ideas. Start small, be consistent, use English-to-English resources, talk to yourself, immerse yourself, and crucially, don't let the fear of making mistakes hold you back. Every single time you make that conscious choice to think a thought in English, no matter how simple, you're strengthening that pathway. You're making progress.
Okay, so for you listening right now, here's a thought to take away. Considering everything we've discussed, what's one specific technique, just one small thing, that you feel you can realistically start implementing in your daily routine, maybe even starting today, to begin building that English thinking habit? And maybe think about how that one small shift, done consistently, might change your experience with English over the next few weeks or months. Just pick one thing to start with.
Yeah, just one step. And remember, this whole journey towards fluency, towards thinking more naturally in English, it's a process. Be kind to yourself along the way. Celebrate the small victories and keep practicing. You really do have the ability to reach your goals.